We're in the woods at Belliver, so I might talk about something relevant for today's vlog, sort of following on from a previous vlog I'd done, but in the wrong order. Talk about May. Now this is in the wrong order because I just talked about Jess, and logically after Jess I would talk about Sophie, which was happening at the same time. Which wasn't really an ex, just she's sort of a very close friend. I was flirting with her. But that was 2009 and 2010 that was going on. Whereas then there was a big hiatus after Jess in 2010 and after Sophie at the end of 2010. There was a large period of time which was basically me getting over Jess, where I knew a bunch of girls and talked to them, but I never really got that close. And then there was another few years and I thought, you know, dating is not going to happen to me again at that point. And then just luckily this happened. So I was still on dating sites at the time. I was on Plenty of Fish and OkCupid. And I was also still working for my old family business at the time, the whole food business, and so saw a lot of customers. Some of the customers I thought were quite cute. One customer started coming in who was very, very cute. She'd rarely come in. Like, she'd come in one week and I thought, holy fuck, she is incredibly cute, because she kind of looks like Jennifer Connelly, but younger and slimmer. And she kind of had this, I'm not sure if I want to say intense or menacing, but she had this aggressive look to her, like she'd be very assertive with you, and like just like turn around and criticize you at the drop of a hat, that kind of thing. Like she had a stern edge to her, high and mighty and hard to get kind of thing. But she was cute, and I served her and I was nice to her, and she was gone. And then like 2 months would pass or something, and she'd come in again, and I'd like recognise her and go, oh, it's that hot girl again. The server would be nice to her, and then she's gone. And then simultaneously, out on the dating sites, on OkCupid I think, I'm looking for, like, you put in the search for girls in your area, and this girl would come up, and I'd add her to my favourites, and then I'd think about it again and realise, hey, this is the girl I've been serving. This is a customer. She's in like Devon. She's in the same county, and yeah, she looks the same. This might be the girl that I've been serving. This stern-looking Jennifer Connelly-alike customer. And I thought maybe I could be wrong. And then she come into the shop again another month later, and I could identify what she looked like in person from the picture. I was like, holy fuck, the customer I'm serving is also, I bumped into them in real life, and I've bumped into them on the dating site on the internet via the area search. Yeah, it's the same person. So I looked again at the profile, and like there's minor details about her, and I was like, I messaged her and said, oh my god, you're cute, you look like Jennifer Connelly, just a kind of throwaway thing. And then I said, I think I served you, I think you're one of my customers, aren't you? And she was like, oh, okay, oh yes, oh yeah. And then she recognised me too. And then we talked a little bit there, and I think somehow I got to add her on Instagram. So I saw some of her pictures and messaged her on Instagram and stuff, but then like nothing really came of it. It kind of petered out at that point. It became nothing really. Like, I wouldn't see her in the shop anymore coming in to be served, and she stopped talking, stopped responding on OkCupid. I did watch as she uploaded stuff on Instagram and occasionally commented on it, and she would throw back a small comment. And then I think at one point we messaged again briefly on Instagram when she noticed on one of my Instagram posts, because I was posting my own stuff, like pictures from my life at the time, which I don't use that site for anymore, because it's like Instagram stuff went, you know, full authoritarian. started stalking me off platform and doing all this horrible shit and banning people for speech. And yeah, so back then I'd post pictures of my life, I guess, pictures of me and pictures of what I was doing. I used it as like a life posting journal kind of place, like I used to with Daily Booth when I knew Jess. Yeah, we both talked about having Raynaud's syndrome. If you don't know, Raynaud's syndrome is what I call like traffic light fingers. It's a condition I've got where the circulation of the blood doesn't go properly to the tips of the fingers, and therefore cold sets it off. When it gets cold, mainly in the winter, the blood doesn't reach the fingertips, and you get the white fingertips, which I think nearly everyone gets the white fingertips one. You know, your fingertips go white in winter sometimes and a little bit numb maybe, and that's when it's cold, the blood is not reaching the tips and circulating. I've got a slightly more extreme form of that, so I get the white, and then if I don't warm up my hands by holding them in warm water or lukewarm water or whatever for like a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, to get rid of the white fingertips. If I don't do that, then it progresses onto a red stage where my hands kind of balloon up and inflate, and it's like nasty. And then at that point, heat sets it off, and it's like a chain reaction. It keeps going, getting worse. So you can't just at that point rely on warming up your hands. And then it reaches a purple stage where it dries up and cracks and bleeds and stuff. I haven't had that in a while actually, so I think I've fought it off, but back then I still had it, leading up to 2019 when I was talking to May. Yeah, I was talking about how I had that, and she was talking about how she had it too, so it was like we both share this condition thing, this common ground thing. And then that was the end of that little message spree, and then we went back to being strangers again for a bit. And then like a few months later, again, see, this is going on for quite a while, a few months later after that, I was at work in the shop one morning, and she just randomly messaged me on Instagram messages. I received it on my phone. I was like, okay, what's this? Someone's beeping me again. And it was May, and she was saying, you seem really nice. Do you want to go out for a drink sometime? I was like, I have to have misread this message. What is this? Is this a prank or something? What's going on? I was like, no, this girl, May, had asked me out on a date. Pretty much, basically, that's what happened. And so I said, well, she's hot. Yes, I'm going to say yes, obviously. And this never happens. I don't know how frequent this is to you, other guys who may be watching. Do girls ask you out on dates? This is the only time it's properly happened to me, and I was like, well, okay, sometimes girls do take the initiative and take the first step. I thought it was always guys that were socially expected to be the one who makes the first move like that. So no, I thought that was cool. Like a squirrel or a person. I'm not going to say equal rights or equality or anything like that. I think there's a squirrel moving around here. But yeah, she asked me out and I was like, yes. So we went to a cafe in town, which was still open at the time. Doesn't seem to be there anymore. And it was a really nice cafe, and we went there and I sat down and had some drinks and chatted to each other. I was like telling her part of my life story and stuff, and asking her stuff about her, and it was really nice. And her in person, and not like when she was a customer, and not how I saw her photos and stuff and how she spoke online. Like in person, she wasn't this aggressive, assertive, stern girl. She didn't have that tough edge to her that her looks seemed to convey. Like she had a kind of downward pointed eyebrow, like the black Jennifer Connelly eyebrows, and the cold stare, and not that many smiles and things in her photos and stuff. It's sort of intimidating, but then when we were sitting there talking, she was kind of slightly more shy, I guess, slightly more airy and spaced out and squeaky, and yeah, it was really kind of sweet. And yeah, she had this great look to her, and I was like, wow. The only thing that didn't look so right was like when you see her in real person, you got up close, like her makeup wasn't so nice. It was like chalky, you know, when people chalk up their makeup, they put all this kind of white paint stuff on their face to make them look a bit more gothy, and then when you're up close, like I noticed that, and like the cracks and things, like you don't need that white chalky makeup on your face. I don't like that white chalky stuff they put on themselves, or the blusher or any of that stuff. I think it looks cheap and nasty, and I think they could get away with just putting no makeup on their face except for eyeliner. That's just my 2 cents. Don't really like lipstick either. Don't really like piercings and tattoos though, so that's my kind of thing. The natural look. Apart from that, she was stunning pretty much. And she didn't have black hair, she had like very dark hair. It was actually kind of brownish, and it just looked black most of the time, but in certain lights you could see the brownishness come through, and it had like, it was a little bit curly. Well, it was straight to begin with, then she cut it and it was curly. It's like more, she cut it like neck length or something. I was like, don't cut your long beautiful hair. She cut it anyway. But it was okay still. And we went out for, I think it was 3 dates. Let me see now. No, it was 4 dates. We went out for 4 dates. And while we were organising these dates, I realised it was very hard to get hold of her on Instagram. Like, she wanted to do things and go places and have fun in person, but when you're talking to her on Instagram to arrange things, she didn't want to do things so much. She was reluctant, or it was difficult to do. Like, it took time to reach her. Like, she was trying not to look at her messages and things most of the time. Like, she wanted to be offline, but the only way I could meet her was by arranging it online or on the phone. And that was the problem. The main problem, as far as I could see, was like, in person she was absolutely fine. On the internet she was very hard to get hold of sometimes, even though she basically wanted to do stuff. Another thing was she lived on the other side of Dartmoor, so I didn't realise she had a car, but it was quite a drive for her, and I realise now, having my own car, how long that drive would have been. She was around, like, I think it's like Ashburton, Buckfastleigh. Oh yeah, and she like managed flats, like, as part of her income in Torquay, I think. She had a flat that she rented out to someone else, and so she was like a mini landlord. So I think her family was rich, because her family got her this flat that she could rent out to other people. So I think she lived in a flat, and she rented out a second property that she had to people as an income. And she was an artist, and I'm not sure what I don't think she had a main job apart from that. She was just like trying to make her art her job, and she had this flat thing. Her brother worked in the Two Bridges Hotel down here. First date we went to the cafe, and then we went into the park in town and sat at a park bench, and I was at the park bench thinking, man, it's kind of good to be on a date with someone this good looking, because she was objectively, I think, the most attractive person who I've dated. Although I always loved Jess's distinctiveness and thought that had pretty strong value, but for a more standard kind of beauty that anyone can recognise, yeah, May was that. So I was sitting on a park bench with her going, like, if I continue dating this girl, it's just kind of, she's going to make me look good basically every time I'm out with her. So I was sitting at the park bench and talking about things, and briefly I'd see people passing and going, yeah, they're seeing me with her, and that's pretty cool. That's giving me like an ego boost or whatever. That's giving me a boost of good morale, I guess. And then the second date, maybe it was 3 dates. I'm not sure if it's 3 or 4. I think, yeah, so second date I think was in the Hellmouth town. We went to a cafe and we drew together, because she's an artist and I'm an artist, so we were both into drawing. We went to the cafe, and she could also do the thing that I admire in girls, which is to like share a comfortable silence, not feel the need to panic about it or get intimidated by a silence, not feel the need to blab and fill the silence with talk. and get really uncomfortable by it. Like, it's an extrovert trait, I think. She didn't do that. She enjoyed moments when we were talking. Sometimes she was actually too quiet for me to hear, and I had to ask her to repeat herself, which is a turn up for the books, because normally it's like other people can't hear me and I have to repeat myself. So sometimes she was quieter than me. So she was an introvert. We were both introverts. Yeah, it was really nice. I thought it was fantastic to be able to sit in this cafe while everyone around us was blabbing and talking, and we'd just be both sketching in our sketch pads and drawing things with each other, and like show each other the end result when it had been half an hour or something, and we'd interject little bits of conversation in between, but we wouldn't feel a need to just constantly fill the silence with talk and blab all the time. Yeah, I thought that was really good and definitely potential for the future. And then the third day we had, it must have been 3 dates. I think, anyway, the third date, I think I suggested we go up on the moor. We went on the moor. She picked me up in the Hellmouth town and we drove out. She drove me out. We had some car conversations where I think she felt a bit uncomfortable and I didn't understand why. I don't know, she got unresponsive while I was trying to talk to her in the car. I think it's something I said, but I don't know what it was I said, really. I can't even remember how the conversation went, but I was just chatting to her, trying to ask her about herself, I guess. So I don't know what that was. She came over icy for a minute or two in the car and I couldn't pinpoint why. So I guess just something I said. Maybe she got offended at something I said and didn't tell me what it was. One of those types of things. But then she was like normal again, and then we went out to Wistman's Wood, which is meant to be a place on Dartmoor near two bridges with a large population of adder snakes, but I never saw them. It's an old kind of twisted oak kind of wood, lots of kind of boulders with twisty trees in it, quite characterful, like something from Lord of the Rings, I guess. We walked into there and I brought some strawberries with me, and I thought it was like this romantic little gesture. We could like hang out and eat strawberries as a little picnic thing, and so she shared with me. And then we climbed up the hill to the Litterford Tors, and that's the first time I saw Longford Tor, and over this kind of desert-like expanse of beige grasses, I thought, I want to fucking climb that. I want to go to that and climb that sometime. That looks amazing. And right now it's like my favourite tour. So I don't know what those are. We're at Litterford Tors above Wistman's Wood, and it's a short walk from the wood to the top of the Tors. Don't know what these ones are, but I think that's Belliver. Does it do anything?
It does, it helps a lot, but I don't want to have to be on it all the time. You look like giant teddy bears.
And then we turned around and headed back. I wanted to get a photo with her. She was apprehensive about getting a photo. I said I'd like to have at least one photo with you, and so she said yes. And then we took the photo with the camera facing me and her, with my arm around her. Took the snap, and she said, "Are you sure that's all right? Maybe you want to take another photo?" And I said, "Well, that's probably fine. I just point the camera at us. We smiled, we snapped. What's wrong with that? It's probably fine anyway. I don't really want to bother you with taking more photos. I don't know why you're now asking to take more photos." In hindsight, she was right suddenly. But yeah, it's like, you didn't want to take this photo to begin with. I wanted to take a photo. I'm not going to bother you by taking another photo. And she's like, "Maybe you want to take another photo?" I'm like, okay, why are you suddenly asking me to take another photo when you were reluctant to before? And I said, no, leave it, don't worry. And when I got that photo back home, we were blinking, like one of us was blinking. I think it was her, like she had her eyes closed. And I was like, god damn. So I caught her in mid-blink, and maybe she noticed it, but I didn't. But, I mean, if she hadn't been reluctant or apprehensive at the start, then it would have been easy and I would have just taken a few photos anyway. So, that was kind of her fault. I don't know what was going on there. It just stuck out to me as like, I didn't get the photo. There's a car behind me, isn't there? And then, I think that was the third date. So I think it was 3 dates we had. And she drove me back home, and I didn't realise you know, how long a distance she would have had to drive after that to get to her own home. So it was quite a bigger day for her than I realised. But yeah, she drove me home. She stopped off, she was looking for somewhere to park, and I said, why don't you, I don't really know about cars, I don't know about parking, but you could park just here maybe. I don't normally see people parking. And I got out, and then she was still having trouble trying to park. And I guess she was hoping for my help to guide her into a space or something, but I'd never done it before. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to look for. I didn't know what she was looking for. So we had an awkward moment where she was trying to just wiggle into a space. Wasn't sure if it was a good space to be in because it was at a junction. And yeah, she was probably worried about her car. But I said, do you want to come in for a moment just to look around? And then she said yes, but I think she was annoyed about having parked badly. Anyway, came in to my garden. She sniffed a rose that was there, I remember that. We walked around the garden. I can't remember if she saw Remy or not, because Remy was our cat at the time. She may or may not have seen Remy the cat. We went around the back of the garden, went into the house, and then we met Dad in the kitchen. Dad met her, which was, in hindsight, a terrible moment for him to meet her, because, yeah, that's when it was, I didn't know, but that's when it was about to end. Came in, she said hello to my dad, we shared a few words, and then she went out to the car and I said goodbye to her. I'm not sure entirely if she expected something there, but yeah, she went on a long drive home, I guess. And then when I tried to message her after that, lots of flies around and lots of noises all of a sudden. I don't know why. When I messaged her on Instagram after that, I was talking to her about shared interests. I think I was talking about Narnia and like fantasy TV shows that we both watched, and you know, kind of looking forward to when we could organise our next date, knowing that it'd be quite difficult to do because she's very slow paced at organising things on the internet. And then she started saying, like, well, she borrowed a Sherlock Holmes book off me, was one thing that happened. And then she started saying that she thought we shouldn't do any more dates or anything. She was doing the friend zoning thing, basically. She was like, we can be friends who talk rarely on the internet again, but I don't want to do more dates. I think you should go and find another girl who is more prompt at talking on the internet or organising things via the internet. I was just like, what? But this is just how we organise it. We've got to organise things somehow because we're not living right next to each other. We're just living in the same county. I mean, it's not really a long distance relationship, but it just takes very mild effort for us to organise something through Instagram. And why are you suddenly afraid of it and scared of it? But yeah, she was quite afraid of it and scared of it. And I think another thing we were talking about, which was really weird, was risk. How she thought I was risk averse, but I didn't. Because we had a little conversation while we were walking through Belliver Woods. By the way, while we're walking through Belliver Woods, there's a giant fire going on, like across the hills from it, which stood out. Yeah, and a Hercules plane flew over us while we were walking in the woods. I got a couple of photos of her, like just from behind sort of thing, as I was following her through the woods. But yeah, we were having a conversation, I remember, in Belliver about how there were certain risks that I would choose and that I wouldn't take, and there's certain things I do that I'd think that risk is too dangerous for me, whereas other risk is on my part, like something I could do. And she took that conversation, I think, as me being risk averse, and she wanted me to, I guess she wanted me to take risks more. And I can't remember what I was talking about. It might have been about river crossings or something. And I think she took something away from that, like, I don't know what it was, like I should have been less risk averse and took more dangerous risks. I don't know if that meant she expected me to do something while on our dates or something. I don't know if she was like very secretly in that way that a lot of girls do, where they don't fucking actually tell you what they're thinking explicitly. They just like meander around the point and avoid it and just give hints towards what they want, but they don't actually tell you. Like, get the feeling she was trying to tell me that I should have taken a certain risk while I was out there, or something like that. But the thing is, like, after we stopped dating, the lockdown thing came along, and she seemed to be like pro-lockdown. Like, from what I could see from watching her Instagram after we parted ways, it's kind of gross. Like, she was the risk averse one, basically. She became the one afraid of risk. She was talking about safety. She was like a bit pro-lockdown. She was talking about old people dying. She's talking about we must keep people safe. I didn't see any picture of her wearing a mask, but I assume that maybe she bowed down to the government and wore the mask. Maybe she's vaccinated now, which is horrible. And another thing, while we were walking around the Hellmouth town together, we were talking about how I was working for my family business and how I could start a business. Like, I've thought of starting my own Whole Food shop, like my own retail business, you know, just independently myself. But I couldn't take that leap because there were too many things in my life that I thought that's too big a risk. That's too big a risk to take. Maybe she saw that as well, because the money I've got at the time, it just wouldn't be practical. I'd lose too much money, I'd fuck up and fail. But I knew that parts of business were about taking risks. But I think she also took something from that I should also take the risk at the time to lose my money and try and start a business back then. I think she got these weird thoughts in her head which she didn't need to get, that made her, for some reason, stop wanting to hang out with me. And I thought it was kind of petty. Like, I thought you could be of a stronger mind, you could be higher devotion and loyalty to someone if you were trying to date them. Obviously she was on a dating site, so she was looking for someone to date, and she ended up asking me. It's like she did want it for quite a time, and then suddenly she decided she didn't want it, which is very kind of temperamental, I think. Changeable. Remembering a line from the Tudors where one of Henry VIII's advisors just like catches him having a tantrum and sort of tells him off and goes, look, I know you're my king, but you need to stop being so changeable and so temperamental. You need to be more solid and more with it and stronger in focus and devoted and stay with things and not leave them, and don't leave things till you've finished them. And it's that kind of feeling I got from May with this thing, this risk thing, and this lack of simple communication to organise meets. And I thought if she just stuck with it, then that could have been a great relationship, to be honest. And I feel bad that she made that decision. Yeah, just didn't put the effort in, really. It's very disappointing that she didn't just stick with it and put the effort in and do very simple things. It's almost kind of like laziness, I guess. She was intimidated by, I don't know what. I mean, she never really told me. It's like many girls I knew that have split apart from me, they don't really tell you the actual reason why they're doing it. They give you a different reason. They don't tell you the truth. Maybe in some circumstances they don't even find out the truth for themselves. It's like when I knew Jess. Sorry to dig back into Jess because we've covered that, but I'm meant to be covering these briefly. This hasn't been very brief. This is quite an explicit outline of what happened between me and May in totality, probably because it's such a short relationship. But yeah, with Jess, there was so much to cover that I have not filled you in on everything in the video. So much happened. And there were points with Jess where she would get sad, but she gets sad for no reason, or like sort of semi on purpose. And I'd ask her, like, you got sad, like, why have you got sad? Like, why are you sad right now? Why are you crying? You must have a reason for it. She's like, no, I don't have a reason. Like, you must have a reason. You're crying. You were happy just now. Are you lying to me? You're happy, now you're sad, and you're starting to cry. Why? And she's saying, well, sometimes you can be sad and there can be no reason for it. You can just be sad and it can be triggered by nothing. I'm like, no, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You're lying to me. You're hiding stuff from me. Like, why are you sad? Like, I think you can be sad with no reason. Just, my ideology on sadness, which I'll describe to you at some point as a vlog, I think that makes more sense than hers, which is mine is like, you can find happiness within sadness. Like sometimes sadness can be a comfort, and you can draw emotion that is positive and happy from being sad. That's something I think about sadness, which I think is a legitimate concept. But I don't think her thing about sadness, where you can just be sad and there be no trigger for it, no reason, no purpose, I don't find that a legitimate concept. So it's like, Jess was like, yeah, sometimes I'll be sad for no reason. And May was just like, I don't know, again, it's like, I can just feel bad about this situation for no reason. Like, there's nothing really happening, and if there is a reason for me doing this, but I can't tell you it, or I'm lying to you, I won't tell you it. You know, lie by omission. I'll just continue on as if nothing's happening, and just not tell you the details of what's happening. It's a lie by omission. And I hate that because, you know, and now we're going into more film quotes. One of the Hannibal films, one of the Hannibal Lecter trilogy films, Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal.
People don't always tell you what they're thinking. They just see to it you don't advance in life.
He gets into a melancholy moment, I think, where he's like, sad Hannibal, sad cannibal. And he's like, people sometimes just don't tell you what they're thinking, and they just see to it that you don't advance in life. And he just gets really sad for a moment. And I'm kind of like that, without comparing myself to the character of Hannibal, which I don't want to do. But I think that piece of what he was saying is very relevant and relatable to life. Sometimes people aren't explicitly telling you what their feelings are about something and why they're doing things, and it stops you both from getting any further in life. You can't go forward, you can't advance, you can't learn anything, you can't become better, you can't fix problems. It's a failure of communication. And me talking about this would feed very easily into a love advocacy, 20th century love, elevatism vlog. But I'm not going to go there for now, because this was about May. And that's what happened, basically. So next time I might talk to you either about Sophie or Natalie. Thank you for watching.